Minister of National Defence Canada. The Minister of National Defence Canada is a Minister of a Crown in the Cabinet of Canada responsible for the management and direction of all matters relating to the national defence of Canada. The Department of National Defence is headed by the Deputy Minister of National Defence, while the Canadian Armed Forces are headed by the Chief of Defence Staff. Both are responsible to Minister of National Defence. The King is the Commander in chief of the Canadian Forces and has final authority in on all orders and laws for the defence of realms. The ministers are responsible through the tenets of responsible government to parliament for the management and direction of the Canadian forces. Any order and instructions for the Canadian armed forces are issued by or through the chief of the defence staff. The Department of National Defence assists to its the minister to in carrying out her responsibilities and act as civilian support system for the Canadian force. The current minister of national defence is Bill Blair. Primary the parliamentary secretary who represents the minister when he is away from the House of Commons in Brian May history. On 1 January 1923, the National Defence Act 1922 come into effect, merging the Department of Militia and Defence, the Department of the Naval Service, and the Air Board to form the Department of National Defence. The ministerial heads to former departments: the Minister of Militia and Defence, the Minister of the Naval Service, and the Ministry of Aviation, that were merged to form a new position, the Minister of National Defence. During the Second World War, the Minister of National Defence was assisted by two subordinate ministers. The Minister of National Defence Farrier were additional minister in the Department of National Defence, responsible for the Royal Canadian Air Force, while the Minister of National Defence for Naval Service was another minister in the Department of National Defence, responsibilities for the Royal Canadian Navy. This air and naval post was incorporated into the portfolio of the Ministry of National Defence following the Second World War. The Munsinger affair and Canada's first national political sex scandal in 1966. The affair involved Gerda Munsinger, a citizen who had been evicted in Germany as a common prostitute, a poetry thief, and as a common prostitute, a poetry thief, a smuggler who immigrated to Canada in 1956 in spite of a warning card dated 1952, and who was in 1960 the mistress of the former Associate Minister of National Defence. Poetry survey. Munsinger was a self-made Epons agent in the employ of the Russian intelligence service. The Defense Portfolio. The Defense Portfolio is a collection of organizations and agencies that report to the Minister of National Defense. Also, Deputy Head for individual agencies direct and oversee these activities of their agency. The minister is accountable to parliament. Its activities, the defense portfolio includes Canadian Armed Forces, communications, security establishment, defenses, research and development, Canada Department of National Defense, Credit Canada, and Junior Canadian Ranger, military grievance, external review committee, Canadian Forces, housing agency, Canadian Forces, personal support agency, judge body, advocate general, military police, complements commission, national search and resume secretaries, office of the chief military judge, office of the legal advisor or to the Department of National Defense, and the Canadian Forces, office of the National Defense, and Canadian Forces Ombudsman. The Minister of the National Defense is also the designated lead minister for search and resume within the federal government.